Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Did the Boston Red Sox completely lose their minds, or are they playing some next-level chess game that the rest of us are too dumb to understand? Because what's coming out of Boston right now is so outrageous, so absurdly disconnected from reality, that you have to wonder if someone in that front office is pranking the rest of baseball. The Red Sox are trying to pull off what can only be described as highway robbery, and their target? The Los Angeles Dodgers. This isn't just aggressive negotiating. This isn't just asking for a little extra to see what sticks. This is straight up attempted theft disguised as trade discussions, and Dodgers fans should be absolutely furious about what Boston is demanding. Let's get straight to the point because this situation is developing rapidly, and the audacity on display here is truly something to behold. Jarren Duran's name is back on the trade block, and it's no secret to anyone paying attention that the Dodgers need outfield help. That need is real. It's pressing. And the Red Sox know it, which is exactly why they're trying to take advantage of the situation like a used car salesman who knows you need transportation immediately and your options are limited. The problem isn't Jarren Duran as a player. The problem is the absolutely insane price tag that Boston just slapped on his forehead. And when I tell you what they're asking for, you're going to think I'm making this up. According to Jeff Passan, and we all know that when Passan speaks, you need to listen, because this guy doesn't report rumors or speculation, he reports facts. The Red Sox are asking for a frontline starter in return for Jarren Duran. Not just any starter. Not a back-end rotation guy or a promising young arm with upside. They want an ace. They want an elite pitcher. They want a genuine number one or number two starter who can anchor a rotation for Jarren Duran. A guy who, let's be completely honest here, had a pretty lukewarm 2025 season compared to the absolute monster year he put up in 2024. Let that sink in for a moment. The Red Sox want the Dodgers to give up a frontline starting pitcher for an outfielder who just regressed significantly from his career year. This is like someone trying to trade you a used Honda Civic and demanding a brand new Mercedes in return because, hey, the Honda was really nice 2 years ago. It's delusional. It's greedy. And it's exactly the kind of negotiating tactic that should have Andrew Friedman laughing on the other end of the phone before hanging up and blocking Boston's number. But let's back up and understand the full context here because the Red Sox's situation is actually pretty desperate, which makes their outrageous demands even more baffling. Look at Boston's roster right now. Their outfield is a complete logjam of left-handed hitters who all need playing time. They've got Ceddanne Rafaela, who's still developing but shows flashes. They've got Roman Anthony, who is their big prospect, the guy they're banking on to be a cornerstone player for years to come. They've got Wilyer Abreu, who had a solid season and earned playing time. They've got Jarren Duran, and then there's Masataka Yoshida, who was supposed to be their big international signing, but has basically turned into a full-time designated hitter because he doesn't have the defensive skills to play in the outfield regularly. Someone has to go. That's not debatable. Boston has way too many outfielders and not enough spots for all of them. They need pitching desperately. Their rotation has been a weakness for years, and they're trying to address it. So Jarren Duran is the obvious trade chip because he still holds value around the league. He's under contract through 2029, which gives any acquiring team long-term control. He has tools that are undeniably appealing. But Boston's front office is trying to sell him like he's the 2024 MVP candidate version of Jarren Duran, completely ignoring what we all watched happen in 2025. It's the oldest trick in the book, trying to sell high on an asset that's fluctuating and hoping the buyer doesn't look too closely at the recent performance. The Red Sox saw what happened in the pitching market this winter. They watched teams pay astronomical prices for starting pitchers. They saw what the Tampa Bay Rays got for Shane Baz, and their eyes got big. They started thinking, hey, if teams are this desperate for pitching and willing to pay these premium prices, maybe we can take advantage of that desperation and fleece someone. And who better to target than the Dodgers, who have publicly identifiable needs in the outfield and a deep stable of starting pitching talent? But here's where Boston's plan falls apart. Andrew Friedman doesn't operate like a panicky general manager making desperate moves. He doesn't pay gold prices for silver. He doesn't get bullied into bad trades just because he has a need. And most importantly, he knows that Boston is in a much tougher negotiating position than they're pretending to be. The Red Sox have a surplus of outfielders and a glaring lack of quality starting pitching. They need to make this trade more than the Dodgers do, and Friedman knows it. Let's analyze Jarren Duran coldly, without the emotion of, we need reinforcements right now clouding our judgment. The guy does have electric tools. He can run the bases exceptionally well. He has the kind of speed and athleticism that can ignite a game and create havoc on the base paths. In 2024, he was legitimately a monster, posting nearly 7 WAR and looking like one of the best all-around outfielders in baseball. That season was spectacular and exactly the kind of performance that makes teams take notice and consider making a move. But 2025 was a different story entirely. The defense in center field slipped so dramatically that Duran was pushed to left field for most of the season. That's a significant red flag right there. When a player's defense regresses to the point where the team can no longer trust him at his primary position, that's concerning. Center field requires range, instincts, and consistency. Left field is where teams hide their weaker defensive outfielders. That positional shift tells you everything you need to know about how Duran's defense was perceived by his own coaching staff. And the bat cooled off significantly too. He was still productive, don't get me wrong. 3.9 WAR is nothing to sneeze at. That's a useful above-average player. But it's a far cry from the nearly 7 WAR superstar production of 2024. Is Jarren Duran still a good player who could help the Dodgers? Absolutely. Would he bring a speed and dynamic element that fits what the Dodgers like to do? For sure. But here's the critical question. Do you hand over a rotation ace for an outfielder who might have already started to regress, or who at best is a great supporting actor and not the star of the show? The answer should be a resounding no. Jarren Duran is a luxury complement to an already strong roster. He's not the guy who carries a team on his back. He's not the difference between winning a championship and falling short. He's a nice piece to have, but he's not essential. And paying a protagonist's price for a complimentary player is exactly the kind of mistake that closes championship windows. It's how good teams become mediocre teams. It's how sustainable success turns into short-term thinking that mortgages the future. Andrew Friedman has built his reputation on patience and discipline. He doesn't get baited into bad trades. He'll wait for the price to drop, or he'll pivot to another target entirely. The question is, how far does Boston's stubbornness go? How long will they keep insisting they have the strongest hand at this poker table when everyone can see their cards and knows they're bluffing? Now let's talk about the names that would actually be involved in a trade like this, because this is where Dodgers fans' stomachs start to turn. When Boston says they want an elite starter, the first name that comes to mind for any opposing GM looking at the Dodgers roster is Tyler Glasnow. And let me be crystal clear about this right now. Forget it. Don't even entertain the thought. Don't hold your breath hoping it might happen, because it won't. Word has already come out that the Dodgers front office has assured Glasnow that he isn't going anywhere. And that makes total sense. You don't build a World Series caliber rotation by trading away your best arm for an outfielder coming off a regression year. That would be organizational malpractice of the highest order. That would be shooting yourself in the foot, reloading, and shooting yourself in the other foot just to make sure you really screwed things up. Glasnow is untouchable, period. So if Glasnow is off the table, where does Boston's attention shift? The target becomes the future. The target becomes Emmett Sheehan, the Dodgers pitching prospect, who has the potential to develop into exactly the kind of frontline starter Boston is demanding. Sheehan's ceiling is absurd. He has the stuff to be a legitimate ace at the major league level, but here's the catch. He's not a certainty yet. He's still developing. He hasn't established himself as that elite pitcher yet, which means Boston, being as greedy as they are, probably wouldn't accept a straight one-for-one trade of Sheehan for Duran. No, they'd want more. They'd want to sweeten the deal. And the name that keeps surfacing in rumors to make Boston happy is Dalton Rushing, one of the Dodgers' best position player prospects. Stop right there. Take a deep breath. Process what Boston is asking for. Emmett Sheehan and Dalton Rushing for Jarren Duran. That's not a trade. That's not even aggressive negotiating. That's armed robbery. That's grand larceny. That's the Red Sox walking into Dodger Stadium with masks and demanding the Dodgers hand over their most valuable possessions or else. Dalton Rushing represents the Dodgers' future. Whether he develops into an elite catcher or transitions to become an impact bat at another position, his value is enormous. The idea of handing over a young pitching arm with legitimate ace potential, plus one of the best hitting prospects in the entire farm system for a 29-year-old outfielder coming off an okay season, is genuinely insane. I refuse to believe Andrew Friedman would even consider such a deal. It goes against everything he's built his career on. Maybe, and this is a big maybe, the conversation could pivot to other names in the Dodgers system. Gavin Stone has had his moments and shown he can be a solid major league starter. River Ryan showed incredible flashes before his injury derailed his 2025 season. But will either of those names satisfy Boston's appetite? I seriously doubt it. The Red Sox aren't operating in good faith here. They're not trying to find a mutually beneficial deal that helps both teams. They're trying to solve their entire rotation problem with a single move, taking advantage of the Dodgers' known need in the outfield. The Dodgers' stance has to be absolutely firm here. Boston, you guys have 4 outfielders for 3 spots. You need to deal more than we need to buy. Time is on our side in this negotiation. The longer this drags out, the more desperate Boston becomes to clear that logjam and address their pitching needs. The leverage shifts more and more toward Los Angeles the closer we get to spring training with no deal done. In the most likely scenario, nothing happens right now, at least not on Boston's ridiculous terms. The Dodgers aren't going to cannibalize their starting rotation or gut their elite farm system to pay 2024 prices for the 2025 version of Jarren Duran. If the price drops to something reasonable, if Boston comes back to earth and starts asking for mid to high level prospects or a package built around someone like Gavin Stone, which would already hurt, then maybe there's a conversation worth having. But handing over Emmett Sheehan or Dalton Rushing would be mortgaging a bright, sustainable future for an uncertain present benefit. Would Jarren Duran help the Dodgers? Yes, he would. Is he worth what Boston is currently asking? Absolutely not. Not even close. And this is where the Dodgers' organizational discipline and patience become their greatest assets. They won't panic. They won't get bullied into a bad deal just because they have a need. They'll explore other options, whether that's the free agent market, other trade candidates, or internal solutions from their own system. At the end of the day, this entire soap opera just demonstrates how difficult the current market is for teams trying to make moves. Everyone wants starting pitching. The demand far exceeds the supply. And teams with spare position players think they can exploit that imbalance by asking for the world in return for their surplus pieces. It's basic supply and demand economics, but Boston has taken it to an absurd extreme with their demands for Jarren Duran. I trust the Dodgers front office not to fall into this trap. Andrew Friedman, Brandon Gomes, and the rest of the baseball operations staff have earned that trust through years of smart, disciplined roster construction. They've built a sustainable winner by refusing to make the kinds of short-sighted panic moves that other teams regularly make. Let Boston figure out their own left-handed outfielder logjam. Let them sit with their surplus and their pitching needs until they're ready to negotiate like reasonable adults. If the Red Sox want to have a serious conversation about Jarren Duran, they know where to find the Dodgers. But that conversation needs to start with realistic expectations and fair value, not with delusional demands for ace-caliber starters and top prospects. Until Boston comes back down to earth, the Dodgers should absolutely stand pat and explore every other available option. The price Boston is asking right now isn't just high, it's insulting, it's disrespectful to the Dodgers' intelligence, and it deserves to be rejected immediately and firmly. Jarren Duran is a good player, but he's not an elite player. He's not a franchise-altering talent. He's not worth giving up the kind of assets Boston is demanding, and the sooner the Red Sox realize that, the sooner we can have an actual productive conversation about whether a deal makes sense for both sides. This situation is going to continue developing over the coming weeks and possibly into spring training. The Red Sox are going to keep shopping Duran because they have to. They can't go into the season with that outfield logjam and expect it to work. Something has to give. And when Boston finally accepts reality and starts making reasonable asks instead of trying to rob teams blind, maybe there's a path forward. But for now, Dodgers fans should be grateful that Andrew Friedman is the one making these decisions and not some panicky GM who would cave to Boston's ridiculous demands just to fill a need. The patience and discipline that has defined the Dodgers' front office approach is exactly what's needed in situations like this. Don't overpay. Don't get bullied. Don't make emotional decisions based on short-term needs that compromise long-term success. Stay tuned because this saga is far from over. If Boston calls Los Angeles again, it better be with a reasonable offer that respects both teams' interests. And if they're not ready to have that conversation, then the Dodgers will simply move on to other options and leave Boston holding the bag with their surplus outfielders and desperate need for pitching. The Red Sox are trying to rob the Dodgers right now. That's not hyperbole. That's not exaggeration. That's exactly what's happening. But the good news is that the Dodgers aren't falling for it. They're not taking the bait. And they're going to come out of this situation having protected their assets and maintained the organizational depth that makes them perennial contenders.